The most powerful move in the room was invisible, not because it was hidden behind legal language, complex financial models, or confidential agreements. It was invisible because nobody recognized it as a move at all. The boardroom was filled with extraordinary intelligence. Analysts had prepared months of forecasts. Advisors had examined every measurable variable. Investors believed they understood the battlefield completely. Every chart had been reviewed, every assumption challenged, every risk discussed. Yet beneath the polished confidence of the room existed a dangerous illusion. Everyone believed information belonged to the person speaking the most. It rarely does. The highest levels of leadership are not defined by the ability to reveal information. They are defined by the ability to protect clarity from unnecessary exposure. Most people spend their lives advertising intention. They announce future plans before foundations exist. They reveal ambitions before discipline has matured. They broadcast every objective, every milestone, every emotional reaction. Then they wonder why momentum disappears. They wonder why focus dissolves. They wonder why resistance seems to emerge from every direction. The answer is often simpler than they imagine. Visibility attracts interference. The modern world celebrates exposure. Every platform rewards disclosure. Every audience rewards performance. Every environment encourages constant signaling. Speak more. Share more. Reveal more. Explain more. But the most sophisticated leaders frequently move in the opposite direction. They practice restraint, not because they are secretive, because they understand that attention is a finite strategic resource. The average executive enters a meeting hoping to communicate. The exceptional executive enters a meeting hoping to understand. That distinction changes everything. The need to constantly announce intentions comes from a subtle psychological hunger. It is the desire for certainty through validation. Human beings feel safer when others approve their direction. They feel stronger when their plans receive applause. They feel reassured when external voices confirm internal decisions. Yet every dependence on validation creates vulnerability. The moment your confidence relies on external agreement, your judgment becomes partially owned by the environment. Elite decision-makers understand this instinctively. They know that the most valuable stage of any vision often exists before the world knows it exists. During that stage, ideas are fragile. Strategies are evolving. Possibilities are still taking shape. Premature exposure invites premature influence. Influence rarely arrives wearing the face of opposition. More often, it arrives disguised as advice, suggestions, opinions, concerns, doubts, questions. The cumulative weight of other people's thinking slowly distorts original perception. This is why disciplined leaders create informational boundaries. They understand that not every thought deserves an audience. Not every ambition deserves publicity. Not every objective benefits from discussion. There is a profound difference between deception and discretion. Deception attempts to manufacture a false reality. Discretion protects a developing reality. The distinction is not merely ethical, it is strategic. A mature leader does not seek to confuse others. A mature leader seeks to avoid unnecessary distraction. The most resilient organizations in history often shared one unusual characteristic. Their public narratives rarely revealed their deepest priorities. Outsiders observed visible activities and assumed they understood the mission. Meanwhile, the true center of gravity remained protected. This created a fascinating asymmetry. Competitors focused attention on obvious signals. Leadership focused attention on actual leverage. And leverage determines outcomes. The marketplace has always rewarded perception. But perception is not the same thing as reality. Entire industries become obsessed with visible movement while missing structural transformation occurring beneath the surface. The loudest companies are not always the strongest. The most visible leaders are not always the most influential. The most discussed opportunities are not always the most valuable. Human beings are naturally drawn toward what can be seen. Strategic advantage often develops where nobody is looking. This creates a paradox. The more obvious a path becomes, the more crowded it becomes. The more crowded it becomes, the less valuable it becomes. And so the disciplined observer begins asking a different question. Not where is everyone going, but what is everyone ignoring? That question has created fortunes. It has built industries. It has transformed ordinary organizations into dominant institutions. Yet, asking the question requires a particular psychological trait: patience. Because the environment constantly pressures us individuals toward immediate visibility, announce the plan, reveal the roadmap, declare the intention, signal confidence, demonstrate certainty. The disciplined leader understands something counterintuitive. Premature certainty is often a symptom of incomplete thinking. The strongest strategies are refined quietly. They evolve through observation. They mature through reflection. They strengthen through deliberate testing. The outside world frequently mistakes this restraint for hesitation. It is not hesitation, it is preparation. There is another layer hidden beneath this principle. Information itself creates expectations. The moment a goal becomes public, social pressure begins influencing behavior. Pride becomes involved. Ego becomes involved. Reputation becomes involved. The objective is no longer pursued solely because it is correct. It is pursued because abandoning it now carries social cost. This is extraordinarily dangerous, because flexibility disappears, and flexibility is one of the greatest advantages any leader can possess. The ability to change direction without emotional attachment has saved countless enterprises from disaster. The ability to remain silent while evaluating alternatives has preserved enormous amounts of capital. The ability to think privately before speaking publicly has protected generations of decision makers from preventable mistakes. The strongest minds understand that every public declaration creates a psychological contract. The fewer unnecessary contracts you create, the more freedom you preserve. Freedom preserves clarity. Clarity preserves judgment. Judgment preserves advantage. This chain is rarely visible from the outside. Observers tend to focus on outcomes rather than internal processes. They see acquisitions, expansions, innovations, and breakthroughs. They rarely see the years of disciplined restraint preceding them. They do not see the conversations that never happened, the announcements that were never made, the reactions that were never expressed, the opportunities that were intentionally ignored. Yet these invisible decisions often matter more than the visible ones, because every unnecessary commitment consumes attention, and attention remains the ultimate currency of leadership. The leaders who endure longest are rarely those who maximize exposure. They are those who maximize focus. Focus requires boundaries. Boundaries require discipline. Discipline requires comfort with misunderstanding. This is where many people fail. They cannot tolerate being underestimated. They cannot tolerate being overlooked. They cannot tolerate withholding explanation. So they reveal more than necessary, explain more than necessary, defend more than necessary, and in doing so, they surrender the very thing they are trying to protect. The strongest leaders become comfortable allowing others to possess incomplete pictures. Not false pictures, incomplete pictures, because complete understanding is earned through results, not promised through words. As years pass, this philosophy begins creating unusual effects. The individual becomes harder to distract, harder to pressure, harder to manipulate through public opinion, harder to rush. Decision quality improves, emotional volatility decreases, Strategic consistency strengthens. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The environment stops influencing the leader as much as the leader influences the environment. And that is the hidden leverage most people spend entire careers searching for. They believe leverage comes from money, or status, or influence, or visibility. Those things matter, but they are secondary. The deepest form of leverage emerges when your direction no longer depends upon external noise, when your attention remains protected, when your judgment remains independent, when your objectives remain insulated from unnecessary interference. At that moment, something subtle yet profound occurs. You stop competing on the same battlefield as everyone else. While others fight for attention, you accumulate focus. While others chase visibility, you develop capability. While others react to the environment, you shape it. And in the final analysis, that is why disciplined discretion has always been one of the most powerful forces in business and leadership. Not because secrecy creates power, but because protected clarity creates better decisions. Better decisions create stronger positions. Stronger positions create enduring advantages. And enduring advantages eventually become the invisible architecture upon which market dominance, institutional influence, and lasting wealth are quietly built.